Okay, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to be looking at a really fascinating way to use AI in, well, one of the most high stakes learning environments you can possibly imagine, the military. And this isn't about just letting some machine teach blindly, right? It's about building a learning partner that's actually transparent, something you can verify.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? In a field where accountability is everything, how in the world do you tap into the power of AI without just, surrendering to some mysterious, unaccountable black box?
So, the problem this whole thing is trying to solve is what the source material calls the two worlds problem. And it's basically this fundamental communication breakdown right in the middle of military education.
What it boils down to is this. The academic researchers who are cooking up these complex theories about warfare and the military instructors who are actually training commanders, well, they're practically speaking different languages. And because of that gap, all these incredibly valuable insights from the world of theory get lost in translation before they can ever really help in the classroom.
And this slide, wow, it just lays it out perfectly. It shows you that language barrier in action. You see, a scholar might be talking about epistemic noise, but a commander on the ground, they just call that friction. Same concepts, really, but the words they use are worlds apart. So let's stick with that word, friction, for a second. The famous military theorist Karl von Clausewitz defined it as that constant, unavoidable pushback you always face in war. We're talking everything from bad weather to your gear breaking down. He famously called it the mud of the battlefield. But here's the thing. Conflict today looks nothing like it did back then. The battlefield isn't just mud and trenches anymore, it's digital. So, naturally, in this information age, the very idea of friction has had to evolve too. And this is the key takeaway for the modern era. Today's friction isn't about a lack of information, it's the complete opposite. It's about cognitive overload. It's the challenge of trying to find the right signal in what they call a fog of information abundance. The problem has literally moved from the physical world into our own heads. So, okay, how do you build a tool for this new kind of cognitive battlefield? Well, the solution they came up with isn't another black box AI. Instead, it's designed to be what they call a disciplined bridge, one that connects those two worlds of high-level theory and boots-on-the-ground practice. So instead of just making stuff up, this system uses something called retrieval augmented generation. Basically, its whole job is to find, connect, and show you information from sources that are already trusted and authoritative. And this simple shift turns the AI from some kind of opaque oracle into a verifiable learning partner. All right, so how do they actually build this bridge? Well, its trustworthiness all comes down to this really clear 5-step process that you can check and audit from the very beginning to the very end. Okay, here's the playbook. Step 1, curate. You build this closed-off, totally controlled library of trusted documents, official doctrine, foundational theory, that kind of thing. Step 2, the AI can only retrieve information from inside that library and nowhere else. 3, and this is absolutely critical, it has to cite its source for every single statement it makes. 4, a human being has to audit all of those claims, literally tracing them back to the original text. And only then, after all that, are you at step 5, where the output is ready to teach. Okay, so that's the how of it all. But what does this actually mean in practice? The so what, right? This next part is all about how this framework becomes a tool that's not just practical, but also, really importantly, ethical for the classroom. And check this out. This is a perfect example of how it works in the real world. They call it the pedagogical crosswalk. Think of it like a roadmap for teachers. It shows them exactly how to take a big abstract idea like friction, use a specific AI tool to help explore it, connect that to a real-world skill like diagnosing uncertainty, and then finally have a way to actually assess if a student gets it. And holding this whole system together are 3 non-negotiable ethical rules. First up, traceability. You have to be able to follow every piece of information right back to where it came from. Second, reproducibility. You have to be sure the process is consistent, that you can do it again and get the same results. And maybe most important of all, accountability. At the end of the day, the human is always responsible, not the machine. And the source has this great phrase for it. They call the process of auditing the AI a practical exercise in decision hygiene. I love that. It's not just busy work, right? It's like a workout for your brain. By making you check the AI's homework, it actually makes your own critical thinking that much sharper. And all of this leads to the final and maybe the most mind-bending idea in this whole framework, a total reimagining of how we work with AI
all by looking at these old concepts, like friction itself, in a completely new light.
Just look at this comparison. On the one hand, you've got the old way of thinking. Friction was just an obstacle. Chaos was just chaos. But now, with this new lens, friction isn't just an obstacle anymore. It's epistemic noise. It's a diagnostic signal telling you exactly where your models are weak and where human judgment is absolutely essential. That unpredictable chaos becomes feedback, and unspoken intuition becomes a bridge that AI can actually help us understand. So at the end of the day, this repeatable bridge idea has something for everyone. For researchers, it's a way to design experiments you can actually audit. For instructors, it's a workflow you can trust to create teaching materials. And for students, it means you get a transparent partner for learning, not just some magic black box. And honestly, I think this quote from the source material just nails it. The framework reimagines friction not merely as an obstacle to be overcome, but as a diagnostic signal that reveals the limits of models and highlights the indispensable role of human judgment. It's not about getting rid of the problem. It's about seeing the problem as the solution. It's a signal that shows us exactly where we, as humans, are needed most.
And that kind of leaves us with one big question to chew on, right? We've been talking about military education, but just think about it. What other really high-stakes fields, we're talking medicine, law, maybe finance, could really use a discipline bridge like this instead of just another black box? Where else do we need a verifiable partner instead of just an unaccountable oracle?